Philadelphia Phillies, they're in for another Red October, and they start a series with the Miami Marlins in the NL wildcard matchup coming up. And there are some big questions ahead of the Phillies postseason run that I wanted to get into in this real quick video to tell you everything you need to know about what the Phillies have facing them and what the expectations are for the team heading into the postseason. So question number one, we're jumping right into it, about the expectations of this team. I want to talk about what the expectations for the team was heading into the season versus the expectations of the team heading into the playoffs. And to me, it's the same thing for the Philadelphia Phillies. It's been a roller coaster ride, right? It's been ups and downs, a slow start, a hot middle of the season. Trey Turner stunk, then he didn't. Kyle Schwarber couldn't bat leadoff, then he had 47 home runs. Bryce Harper was going to be hurt for 3 months, and then he played and cleared 20 homers. Is Aaron Nola good or not? There's so many things we still don't know. But what we do know is that a team that was expected to make the playoffs again made the playoffs last year as the final wildcard team. This year, they won 90 games, 3 more than last year. They're the top wildcard seed, and they still have expectations of being a World Series contender. So have the expectations changed? No. The road was a little bit winding to get here, but it's still World Series expectations for the Philadelphia Phillies, and a matchup with the Marlins is just a stepping stone on the way to where they want to get, which would include having to knock off the Atlanta Braves again, possibly the LA Dodgers, and whoever comes out of the other side of the bracket, and then worrying about the World Series when we get there. It's still business as we expected it to be for the Philadelphia Phillies in 2023. Now, the batters that are coming into the playoffs hot at the plate. Right now for the Philadelphia Phillies, you're looking at Bryce Harper, absolutely on fire. You're looking at Trey Turner, who's turned his season around. There are a couple of guys that are really, really rolling for the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, frankly, the offense itself was pretty hot down the stretch. It was August, right? And now we're heading into October. But just a month ago, they were completing the best homer month in the history of the franchise and one of the greatest in Major League Baseball history. So really, a lot of guys are hot. Anybody could really get going too, on top of where they're already at. Bryce Harper's a clutch performer come postseason. I look at the top of the order, and I say Kyle Schwarber's been hitting the ball out of the yard really well lately. He really has been all year. He's hot. Bryce Harper is never not hot. Trey Turner, outside of the start of this year, has gotten really, really hot, so I could see him as a big piece. And the young player to keep an eye on, Alec Bohm. He's going to finish the regular season, or he did finish the regular season with 97 RBIs. But if they had something to play for, there's a good chance he could have gotten to 100. He's a really important part of this lineup, too, going forward. So those are the guys to keep an eye on. Now, as far as the starting rotation and the depth that the Philadelphia Phillies have, they almost have too many starting pitchers. The 3 guys I trust to get the ball in a starter's role are going to be Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and Ranger Suarez. Those are the guys that have done it here before and have done it at a high level. We talked about already, Nola's been a little iffy this season, but still, postseason, he's got the experience. He's a veteran. He's a guy that is unflappable, even after the really rough contract year he's had. So those guys are the ones that are getting the ball. But then you have plenty of more to worry about. Taijuan Walker has been great at points this year for the Philadelphia Phillies. Does he get a start? Christopher Sanchez, a young pitcher who had to get called up mid-season to be a part of this team. He wasn't on the opening day roster. Well, now he's got the opportunity to potentially start a game in one of the longer series if the Phillies get there. He's been a really good starter for them this year. Michael Lorenzen threw a darn no-hitter for this team this year, and he's probably going to be pitching out of the bullpen. So the depth of this team's starting rotation is insane compared to last year, where the Phillies only really had 3 starters they trusted. Moving on to more pitchers, though, the bullpen. Is the bullpen good enough to win the World Series? And the next question I got here to get into. Yes, this bullpen is good enough to win the World Series. You have an all-star closer in Craig Kimbrell. You have Jose Alvarado, who's one of the best lefty relievers in all of baseball. And then behind them, you have a bevy of guys who have a high ceiling. Gregory Soto, rough year, his first year at Philly in the regular season. Still a multi-time all-star as a reliever. Matt Strahm was great earlier on in the season. He has the ability. Seranthony Dominguez was outstanding last year. He hasn't had a great season in 2023, but the ceiling is still there. Then you add in guys like Jeff Hoffman, who's been a great surprise for this team. You add in Michael Lorenzen, who we just talked about, who threw a darn no-hitter as a starter. He's now in the bullpen. And Ryan Kirkring, the X Factor, the young kid who started the season in single A ball, is now a part of the playoff roster, throws 99, has a dirty slider. Yeah, this bullpen is good enough. The question is, will we get consistent enough bullpen performance by the Philadelphia Phillies to get the job done? Now, another question I want to get into here. What is the Philadelphia Phillies' greatest strength heading into the postseason? I'll tell you what their greatest strength is. They've been here before. Last year, the Philadelphia Phillies made a magical run when nobody believed they could. And what that does for your confidence is it makes all of these players who are already veteran, proven guys going into last season, but who now have the experience of playing a postseason in Philadelphia, it tells them that they know they can compete with anybody. That's their biggest strength, is the makeup of this team. Look at the leadership. Kyle Schwarber, an insanely good leader, a guy with a World Series pedigree. JT Realmuto, a veteran who's been around the block forever, was a big performer in the playoffs last year. He's been the best catcher in baseball for years now. Now, is he dropping off a little bit due to age? Possibly, but still a veteran leader. Bryce Harper, the most clutch performer in the postseason last year. He's back better than ever. Like, he's insanely good. Trey Turner, a guy that's played at big moments. It's his first season here, but he's another veteran guy. And even the young players, Marsh, Stott, Bohm, they got the taste last year. They know what it's like. So I think that whole run last year is going to be the biggest asset to the mentality of this team this season. Now, what are we worried about in the postseason for the Philadelphia Phillies? It's the inconsistency of the starters. There have been points this year where Aaron Nola and Ranger Suarez and Taijuan Walker have been really shaky. It's inconsistencies. The Phillies, they'll play for a week and look like the best team in baseball, and then they'll play for a week and look like a middle-of-the-pack team. The upside is if you get that best team in baseball stretch for 2-3 weeks, they're going to be World Series champions. But they haven't really shown consistency throughout the course of the season, and that's why it was such a stressful year in spite of them winning 90 games. That's the thing I'm most worried about, is as capable as they are of going out and getting hot and running through the National League and having a good look at the World Series again, they're just as capable of having two really rough performances on the mound and finding themselves going home. Like, I just don't – there's a low ceiling for this team, and there's an incredibly high floor. And that whole in between is the question of how they're going to perform in the playoffs. That's my biggest worry coming into the postseason. Finally, how far in the postseason will your team go? Wow, a very black and white question there. How far will the Philadelphia Phillies go? It's such a tough call because they match up with the Braves. If they beat the Marlins, and then you might have the Dodgers. I'm just going to go ahead and play this out, right? I think the Phillies are going to beat the Miami Marlins. I really do. I think with the momentum from that and the familiarity with the Braves, I think they're going to have the best chance of knocking off the Atlanta Braves. If the Phillies don't beat the Braves are going to be World Series champions because no other team in baseball seems to be able to figure that team out. It's going to be a tight series. If the Phillies beat the Braves, they're winning the World Series. If the Phillies lose to the Braves, obviously they're out in the NLDS. That's what it comes down to, right? It's right there for you. That's going to be the huge matchup because once you beat that team, you have confidence you could take down anyone. I'm not buying anyone from the American League this year. Even the Orioles, they're kind of young. It's a great story. I don't think they'll make it to the World Series. And even if they did, I'd still take the Phillies over them. I really think the actual World Series would be a Philadelphia Phillies, Atlanta Braves, NLDS. So the question is, do you have faith in them winning that series? I do. But I'm a bit of a homer, and I'm rooting for a red October. That's my thoughts on those questions on the Philadelphia Phillies. So appreciate you checking in on this short video. Hopefully it told you more you need to know about the Philadelphia Phillies' upcoming postseason run and what should be another great red October.